It's the kid, 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 it's the kid. Right in here, what's up, what's up, what's up, what's up, what's up, what's up, what's up. And so guys, look, man, we're in here for another interesting the debates. Well, I mean, much more of a discussion because I think I want this discussion to really expand. So obviously the discussion that we're gonna have the discussions here. The discussion is whether Liverpool can be the next dominant force in Europe and the Premier League over in the future, specifically for the better parts of the next decade. And then we're going to also do a bit of coronavirus talk updates with regards to when will football come back, how safe would it be for football to come back under the whole virus thing and everything, man. So first of all, we've got your boy Red Devil here, we've got your boy Juju man here as well. Man. So Red Devil, how is self-isolation going with you, man? How are you coping with it?
I mean, obviously, as a medic, obviously going into hospital and stuff like that as well. And the big challenging thing for me is the fact that like I can't see my family. That for me is the big sort of thing. So because obviously, if you're working in a high risk environment, knowing. I know colleagues, that have had COVID, have been unwell with COVID. So I think that's probably the hardest thing. So just knowing that you can't interact with your family, interact with your friends and stuff, and that's probably what's been the hardest about this whole thing.
Okay. No, and yeah, because Red Devil will definitely give us like a much more of an intake into the whole COVID situation and how that's going, and also expanding upon that later on in the show. So, Juju, what about you? How have you been coping with self-isolation?
I've been doing well. Because I had tests I had to do, so it gave me more time to study, so that's good. And on the positive side is it's not summer yet, so the weather is not. I'm not missing anything outside, so that's another positive. And but the way it looks like it's improving, so that's another good thing. So for me, at this period, I've been doing well because I had more time to accomplish a lot of stuff. So this is good. This was good for me.
Okay. So let's just get into this whole thing now. So look, my thing here is this: when the season obviously stopped, Liverpool were at the cusp of obviously winning the Premier League, but they had now gotten knocked out of the Champions League, got knocked out of the FA Cup and so forth. Because just before then, people were thinking, could it be treble? Could they break the records and so forth? And people may look at how they lost to Atletico Madrid and so forth. Maybe these guys cannot be that European force. But I think, look, man, you can't win all your games, and there are always going to be games that you lose. But when I look at the landscape of Europe and so forth, I feel that Liverpool right now are the best placed team to be the dominant, to be potentially, this is the discussion we'll have, the potential to be the dominant force. So my reason is this, and I'll obviously give it to Red Devil and Juju man, is first of all, they have a great manager. I feel Klopp, with regards to how the modern game is played in the attacking way, I think is definitely one of the top managers out there right now. They have a system that works. The system definitely works. Now, of course, they tweaked the system a little bit to be much more pragmatic and focus on winning. But I think that maybe they've learned from this season with regards to let's go off the shackles and just go. They have goal scorers. They have one of probably the most prolific goal scorers in the world right now in Salah, and I feel they have probably one of the best best clutch players right now in a manner. So they have very key role players in the team. I look at Barcelona; they're in the rebuilding stage, and we even have to talk about what's going to look like without a Messi. Real Madrid, they're clearly not ready right now. Of course, we're missing Hazard. They're obviously reeling off not having Cristiano. Juve and Sarri isn't a perfect marriage. So yes, they've got Cristiano. Yes, they've got a decent team. It just doesn't seem to work. And I feel that in a Pjanic and so forth, who has been very key for them, I think he's obviously on the decline right now. Man City are definitely there and so forth. But something tells me that I'm not sure whether Pep and Man City is really going to be that much of a long-term thing. Just something tells me that Pep may be looking elsewhere with regards to what he does for Man City. You look at Bayern Munich, maybe that could be a rising threat, but I'm not seeing enough from Bayern Munich to convince me that they can come close to the force they were back in 2012, 2013 when they had Robbery, Ribery, and so forth. And then you look at a PSG. For me, a PSG, it's down to a mentality thing. It's down to a structure thing. It's down to a leadership thing. So they will always have the talent. They'll always have the personnel, but you have to have a structure there. And there isn't a strong core or a structure for PSG. So when you're looking at the landscape out there moving forward, the key thing for Liverpool is this: if they don't buy the key players they need, then they won't dominate. Like, this is football is about to stay on top and to remain on top. You've got to keep on improving. You have to keep on improving. And there are players that Liverpool need. They need a creative playmaker. They need a creative attacking playmaker. They may need another kind of goal scorer. So they need another kind of alternative to Firmino, which could be on Origi, but they play him on the left. But the thing, though, is that Klopp didn't have the kind of stability and financial support at Dortmund as he does at Liverpool. Because at Dortmund, he was always under the threat for Bayern Munich, and they always got his players. They got Lewandowski, they got Hummels, they got Maragotza. They literally ripped the spine and the very lifeblood of his team. Of course, Kagawa moved to United. Okay, Gundogan moved to City. So that situation isn't going to really happen with him at Liverpool, based on how they are far more stable. And I think Liverpool just have more cachet and more pull than his Dortmund side did then and even now. So again, for me, and this is just me putting the stuff out there, because again, things may change if Real Madrid buy a huge player, if Juve gets a Pogba, if Neymar returns to Barcelona, things now change. The landscape now changes. So a lot of things, a lot of pieces have to be in the right place for it to be a perfect scenario where Liverpool now sits on the throne. So let me kick it to Red Devils Studio. So where do you stand there on Liverpool maybe potentially being top of the mountain next 2-3 years?
I mean, obviously, it's possible. Obviously, they could win. I think it comes down to the fact that we've already got a mention, which is the idea of stability. And I think that it's not so much that Liverpool. I believe that Liverpool are eons ahead of every other team in Europe. I think it's just that the fact that Liverpool are one of the most stable clubs compared to other teams in Europe. So Real Madrid, for example, you're right, but the fact is that you just don't know with Perez. He could sack Zidane after pulling results, and suddenly get a new manager, new philosophy. Barcelona, same thing. There still seems to be some enmity in the hierarchy and stuff like that, and what's going on with and Messi being a bit unsettled at times. So Bayern look like they've sort of got their form kind of back, but again, like I told you in the Sir Alex Ferguson a podcast, there's a very big difference between being an interim manager and being an actual manager. So I'd still like to see how Hansi Flick does as an actual manager than actually as an interim, and see how that goes. PSG, you've already told it's a mentality thing, but honestly, I've never really rated Tuchel. I think he inherited a very good Dortmund side from Klopp and just continued with them. So
he never really did anything off his own back.
Exactly, So and as you said with Pep, I think it's not even just with Pep not necessarily being long term, although he said multiple times that he's happy to be there for long. It just depends on City. I think City themselves, actually, if you look at some of the ages of the players, they themselves are actually due for almost a rebuild as well. Like, they haven't really replaced Company. Sergio Aguero is kind of getting on. David Silva's obviously left, etc. And so there are a few key areas where they themselves have to actually bring in some key players and rebuild. And they've got to obviously be good as well. I don't think Liverpool are going to be in the same. I don't think we're going to see a period of dominance, aka like Manchester United were under Sir Alex Ferguson, when they were literally dominant. Actually, we're talking over a decade in terms of the amount of titles the United obviously won under Sir Alex Ferguson. But if Liverpool obviously are going to be successful, it's obviously it's not that I think that they're not beatable, and we've seen that. And I do think next season, I do believe next season they are going to lose more games. I don't think they're going to run. I just think that they just, as you said, they just have more stability than other clubs. Maybe I'll throw my hat in here and say that possibly United with 1 or 2 more signings could potentially, affect this Liverpool side. I don't think we should underestimate Manchester United, but that's my 2 cents.
All right, okay, Juju man.
I'll say Liverpool. Look, I'm glad, because I don't think there'll be it depends on the decisions they make that will determine if there'll be a dominant force. Because the one thing you have to do, like when you're on top, I learned this when I was back in the day when I used to be a Madrid fan, is at times you have to get rid of the players that you like. Like I used to like Ozil, and he had to go, and then good things happen. So with Liverpool, they'll have to assess like their weak points this at the end of the season and decide who to get rid of. I know it's
so. Then, what are their weak points then?
Maybe get rid of Milner. Maybe look at the front three, see if they need to upgrade, if they're scoring enough goals. Because people will be like, "Oh, we need that front three." At some point, like they have to assess if. I mean, they won the Premier League, so that's good. But do they need to go and buy like maybe the Dortmund guy, like Erling Haaland? Maybe, I don't know. They'll have to look at that. And I mean, with the dominance, the problem is once you dominate. I mean, like this season, I don't know, because if you see, once you dominate, like you become, your opponents learn about you and you become predictable. Is this like, so it's
but then do Liverpool have a pattern of play? Like as much, because remember, Pep has a very particular philosophy. Is there a particular philosophy that Klopp's Liverpool has that you can sort of copy and auto-tune your thing to? Because I'm not sure whether they do.
I think the one obvious one is they use the Robertson and Trent.
Fullbacks, yeah.
They use that a lot. So that's one point other teams will work on when stopping Liverpool. Like they cross a lot and they use the fullbacks. Another thing is Firmino. Because sometimes you've seen like this year, last year, you saw when Firmino sometimes is not playing, they struggle. So maybe stopping Firmino can be another way to hurt Liverpool. And then, I mean, with Van Dijk, how did they lose against Atleti? Like, how did they lose Atleti? Because he was exposed against Atleti. So that's another part too. So these ways especially with the fullbacks, these ways where you can stop Liverpool. And I don't know, it's their playing style. Unless they change or Klopp comes up with something that no one has seen. I mean, it's predictable. It's now easy. It's more predictable. You can tell where they attack it. They had a lot of assists. So,
actually, let me ask both of you guys this then.
Okay.
Because there's sort of been like a lot of talk about this whole Firmino thing that I've been seeing with the past that, okay, how Firmino is important to the system, but isn't a high volume goal scorer. Hence why they were trying to look at getting a Timo Werner, who people look like as being maybe the next top striker in the next 2-3 years. So Liverpool want to just have first dips on him right now. So if Liverpool are looking to dominate, and I say, you know what, all that matters is about us dominating and staying on top, and we're listening about our friends, we have to be cutthroat. So come first to Red Devil with this. Do you sell a Firmino and get a better goal scorer? Or do you keep with Firmino because he's so important to the system and just upgrade the stuff that's around him?
I mean, speaking to speaking to a friend who's a Liverpool fan, and he just a bit about the insight into Liverpool. And there is like this sort of like gel, almost like sort of there's a gelling in the Liverpool squad, if that makes any sense, so it's easy to say just sell Firmino, but if Firmino being there provides a sort of squad unity, a squad harmony, if that makes any sense, and just bringing in, because I think you mentioned that the Japanese guy, what's his name again that they signed?
Minamino.
One of the reasons that he hasn't been playing with this, there's been difficulties because like he hasn't really sort of gelled with the established like Liverpool sort of side. So I do think that Firmino seems to clearly give something to Liverpool's side that makes them stronger. That isn't necessarily the goals. And if you take him out, we've seen it in games where Firmino hasn't played and Liverpool have struggled. So clearly there's something that he contributes that we don't actually see. In answer to whether they bring someone in, I mean, I'm going to be honest, like, I feel Timo Werner is a talent, but I don't necessarily think he's as highly rated.
He's not as good as people think. He's not as good as people think.
Yeah.
He's not as good as people think.
I think Klopp can certainly make it better because he's that type of coach, that type of manager, you know. So obviously Germany's worked this in Brothers Force. So, but you know, I just think they have to have a good number two. I mean, at one point, Origi was coming off the bench and doing bits, so you didn't even have to even consider getting a second striker because Origi was scoring clutch goals all of last season. Now this season, he hasn't really been doing that, you know. So if they can get someone in who can almost be like a support striker, who can, you know, contribute in the class and is happy to interchange with Firmino, then of course I think that would suit them well. And whether Timo Werner would want to do that, I'm not 100% sure he would. I assume he'd want to play more often. But just one point I think this is important to mention regarding Liverpool is that one of the things that watching Liverpool games this season is that there were a lot of games this season where they just won. They had clutch moments, you know. So
they didn't play well. They haven't really played that well.
Exactly. So, you know, I'm not saying that they were lucky. You don't go 20, 25, 30 points ahead and you're just lucky. But what I would say is that there were a lot of games where they weren't playing well, and that, like, the one that comes to mind is when they were away to Sheffield United. And, you know, Sheffield United actually played quite well. Goalkeeper makes, like, a mistake and it's 1-0. And that was the only goal. You know, that doesn't happen. It's a draw, effectively, you know. So I don't necessarily think that Liverpool, in terms of quality, have been so far ahead of everyone else. I just think that combined with their consistency, they've also had a lot of their rub of the green, if that makes any sense. So, yeah.
Okay, so actually, before I come to Juju, man, let me just comment. It says that, obviously, from a Liverpool fan, we need a proper striker, backup left back, creative midfielder, and replacements for Lovren. I see, before I come to Juju, man, I see my whole thing about this whole thing of a proper striker, like, this is a new world where we're living in. People will argue that Giroud isn't a proper striker, but he was instrumental in helping France win that World Cup. 0 goals, didn't score any goals, but it was important in helping them win that thingy. Benzema as well. Benzema during the Cristiano days. Yeah, he may pop up with a goal here and there. He was the high-volume goal scorer. All those goals came from Cristiano, but he played an important role in Real Madrid getting those wins. So if Firmino is important and helpful for the system and the team and helping them win, and is helpful for getting Salah to get all of the goals, because Salah gets a high number of goals. Same thing with Mane. Do you really want to get a quote-unquote proper striker to come in and mess up the whole floor? So, Juju, man, what do you sell Firmino, keep him? How do you stand there?
No, I say you keep him because Liverpool need creative players. I say they need another creative. I'll agree. They need another creative midfielder. I mean, because against Atleti, I mean, it was spamming crosses like this. It was like ridiculous how many crosses. They need another way of creating chances. So I would say you keep Firmino and maybe add another creative midfielder. And the one say that they need a centre back. I don't think they need to replace Lovren because you're not going to get an inequality centre back who's going to play as a fourth centre back because Joe Gomez, Matip, Van Dijk, and Joe Gomez is a decent centre backs to have. So getting another one, I'm not sure anyone of any top quality centre back will come to warm the bench. And the other one thing I still Liverpool need, they're missing is a dribbler. They need someone to dribble the ball. People will say Salah is a dribbler, but unless kick and run is considered dribbling these days, I don't think he's a dribbler.
Relax.
But I think they need a dribbler because they need
like a Coutinho, Juju, man, Coutinho.
Yes, or if they can find a player similar to Di Maria who's just his dribbling is amazing, that would be another thing. Because the one problem I see with Liverpool is they need to make the way they attack more diverse. I mean, they need to attack in different ways because what they're doing right now is heavily relying on crosses, and that's the problem. Next season, I'm sure it will be easier to stop them because it's like we know the main strength. So I'd say they need to have different ways of attacking. And just to add that thing, I don't know, do they even have someone who's really good at free kicks? And who's good at free kicks? Because when they have free kicks, I mean, Trent, I guess, is good, but he crosses. They need maybe someone should work on free kicks. So they just need to have different ways of scoring instead of the one.
No, basically variation.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay, so let's even talk about Salah right now. Because I think, look, for me, as I've always said, look, I don't want to bring this whole Salah versus Mane thing and everything. They're two different players, and I don't want to bring the whole rivalry thing in there. But one thing I always admit that Salah's goals are very important, and I think that if he remains in the Premier League, I don't think he will, but at least he has a good opportunity to maybe say what's up to Shearer's record. I don't think Shearer's record is going to be broken for a long time, but he can still say what's up to it. So, in your view, let me even I'll start things off. Do you feel Salah stays with Liverpool long term, or do you think he moves? You see, my thing here is this: loyalty in today's game is very rare. You can count on one hand the top players who have stayed with the same team all throughout. Notable guys are Totti, Maldini, Gerrard. De Rossi was close, but at the end, he then ended up moving and so forth. Because you see, Gerrard made sense. This is you're the captain, the leader. You grew up here and so forth. And many people thought that, oh my gosh, Henry was gonna sort of retire there. But even if he didn't, because he began at, I think, Monaco, then he went to Juventus. But they thought he retired to Arsenal based on what he did. But was like, no, I want to get the full set. So I want to now leave. Now, for Salah and so forth, you see, if I was a betting man and so forth, and Real Madrid came with a realistic offer, I'm not sure whether Salah rejects that.
I'll stop you there, Double H. First of all, I don't want to sound offensive, but Salah is not Real Madrid quality. People will say, oh, they have Vinicius.
Oh, geez.
Salah is not Real Madrid quality. I apologize.
No. See, Juju man, Juju man, let me stop you there. Let me stop you there. Juju man, do Real Madrid have any right to reject Salah when all they can look to is Vasquez, Vinicius, and Rodrigo?
Yes, but
Hazard.
Look, they have.
No, look, Hazard. Look, it's good at that thing. Hazard is his own thing, but Juju man, you're saying to me that Real Madrid would reject having Hazard on the left, Salah on the right. They would reject that.
Salah is not good enough for Madrid. Let's be honest. First of all, let's be honest. People will hate, but let's have an honest discussion. Salah's main pull comes from the fact that he's Middle Eastern and he's good for marketing. That's the first player attributes is concerned. I don't see anything. It's outstanding. So let's be honest. I don't want us to like mix words here. So because you see everyone in there, he's good. I mean, rarely. I mean, you don't get every day a top class player from the Middle East. So it's good for business. The other thing is, with Madrid, I know people will say Vinicius or Lucas Vasquez. Remember, I mean, someone like Lucas Vasquez has 4 Champions League, so that name cannot be taken lightly. And with Salah, I mean, he's good, but is he good? Is he known for crossing? Because he's not going to bench Benzema. So that's not going to happen. So and can Salah? I mean, he's decent at penalties. I mean, he's standard for penalties. I don't see anything. He's not a tour of the Vidal in penalties, but he's good at penalties. I mean, what else does he bring? He doesn't use both his feet.
No. Okay. Look, Judgman.
Free kicks is all right.
Judgman, I'm going to be slightly Egyptian here. So I'm going to slightly be Egyptian here. Are you going to deny this guy's goal scoring quality? Now, footballing wise, we can say that, okay, he may not be that great a football player technically, but Judgman, this is a Real Madrid side who are struggling to put the ball inside the nets. Are you going to deny Salah's goal scoring prowess that he has shown in the past 2-3 seasons?
No, but the problem with Madrid too is they have no creative players. I mean, if Vinicius is your main guy, I mean, there's a problem. And the other thing is Benzema is not going. Benzema is Florentino's son. He's not going to get him to bench Benzema. They love Benzema, so he's going to stay in the one side. But I don't. Even Salah knows it's best for him to stay at Liverpool. That's the best, because if he goes there, he doesn't have Klopp. Helps them. Works well with Klopp. So going outside, it's not worth it. Like, he has everything. So first of all, I don't think he's. I don't think people will disagree, but I don't think he's good enough for Madrid. Even though Madrid right now they are on the low, but Madrid always attract the best. You associate Madrid with names like Kylian Mbappe or Neymar, not Salah. Just
So, honestly, HH, I thought you were actually going to say Mane, because I think Mane to Real Madrid.
No. I'll get there, because I'm just moving player by player. So we've seen Juju with his extremely Juju.
Yeah.
I am going to notify every Egyptian pharaoh to find your number and find you, because you are going to have an army of Egyptians on your ass.
Yeah, I'm saying even Abdul probably agrees. I bet you Abdul agrees. He doesn't rate that.
Okay, so Red Devil. So in your view, do you see Salah staying with Liverpool long term, or do you think if a big club comes in and says, "We want you," Salah will be like, "Screw loyalty. I'm going to go to Barcelona or Real Madrid"?
I think that I kind of half agree with Juju, man, in a sense that I do feel that Salah seems to work well in the system that Klopp seems to play, in terms of the high pressing, in terms of how Klopp plays. I don't necessarily think that if you then put him in a Barcelona system or even a Madrid system, that you might necessarily get the same payoff. The other thing as well is that certainly over the last 2 years, we've known that Salah can be quite selfish, but he sort of gets away with it at Liverpool because he scores goals, he's the Don, he's the best player. I don't necessarily know whether that would be the same case at Real Madrid. And if you look at what's obviously happened with Gareth Bale at Real Madrid, that kind of it's easier to sort of get frozen out if you sort of adopt that type of attitude, which possibly might be the case if Salah went to Real Madrid. Personally, I actually don't see any of the Liverpool players really going, just for the simple fact that Liverpool, as we talked about recently, are competing for Premier League titles, are competing for Champions League trophies. I suspect, and we'll probably speak about this later, it's variable as to whether the Champions League is even going to continue this season. So what happened with Atletico Madrid essentially becomes null and void potentially, and they restart again. But anyway, if as a player you are competing consistently for Champions Leagues, the Champions League winner last year, they're obviously going to win the Premier League this year. What's necessarily your motivation to move? Because Real Madrid, with the way things were going, looked like they were probably going to be knocked out of the Champions League in the round of 16, and there's no guarantee that they will be competing for the Champions League properly anytime soon. Yes, qualifying, but actually competing. Do we honestly think that Real Madrid in the next 2 years are going to be competing for the Champions League? Really? Considering other teams in Europe? I'm not saying they're completely far away, but considering some of the other teams that were in the Champions League this season, City, Bayern Munich, even likes of Juventus, and at times Atletico Madrid, I don't.
But see, you're right there. But that's a great point. It's a great point in terms of, wait a minute, we're already, because normally why people leave is because I'm not in a team that can actually go for these trophies. Reason why Harry Kane wants to leave is because, bro, I'm not here to be a stats manager. I want to win trophies. This team cannot win trophies. So that is a great point. But my thing though is this. My response to that is that the way non-English people view Real Madrid and Barcelona is not the same as English players. I understood why. I think it was around 04, 05, 06 where Gerrard could have moved to Real Madrid, I believe. But he was like, no, Liverpool. And I get that because English people have a massive, huge sense of loyalty. That's a huge thing. Like English people loyalty is a huge thing. Same thing with Italians as well. But for non-English players, Real Madrid and Barcelona is a big deal. It's a massive deal because of how many. Because for non-English players, succeeding at a Real Madrid or Barcelona is you've done it. And again, see, people will say, "What do you mean? But Liverpool have won. Look at all the UCLs Liverpool have won and so forth and everything." It's like it's all about perception. And perception of the English players and perception of the non-English players. For the non-English players who didn't grow up in England and so forth, what they saw, especially people of Salah's age group, who didn't grow up with the Bob Paisley, all those kinds of dudes back in the 70s and the 80s, they grew up with the Galacticos, the Real Madrid team, the Rauls, and so forth. Those who they knew, or the Barcelonas with a Guardiola and so forth, and a Rivaldo. So for them, Barcelona and Real Madrid, that's the iconic thing.
I agree with that to a certain extent, but I mean, at the end of the day, when a player looks back on his career, you know, and you ask any player, whatever country they are, what they look at is they look at their achievements. And you look at someone like Coutinho, for example. I highly doubt that Coutinho was sort of thinking, "Oh my goodness, you know, I'm so glad that I moved to Madrid and had an opportunity and a chance." When Liverpool won a CL, there's got to be a part of Coutinho that's thinking, "Had I maybe stayed at Liverpool for one more season, I'd have been a Champions League winner." You know, so I'm not disagreeing with you. I think you're right. But if like Real Madrid are nowhere near close to competing for the CL and they still seem to slip up for whatever reason with the La Liga title, then it would be strange for certain players, even if they're non-English, to think, "Yeah, that's fine. You know, I could be winning Premier League titles. I could be winning CL titles. I'm happy just having no trophies for another 3 or 4 years." Like,
okay, so let me ask you this, because obviously Juju disagrees. So based on where Real Madrid are right now, don't you believe that if you put a Salah into that team, there's already Kroos, already Modric, there's already Valverde, you already have Hazard there. If you don't put a Salah and his goals in that Real Madrid team, they don't automatically now start competing for La Liga titles and Champions League titles?
Yeah, possibly. I don't know. I mean, to be honest, I feel like Real Madrid need to reinforce more so in the defensive areas. I think that Ramos and Varane are getting to a stage where I don't necessarily think that they are. I'm not saying they're bad, but I don't necessarily think that in 2 or 3 years' time they're going to be good enough to compete at the top level. Same goes for Casemiro as well, who again I don't think is bad. Modric, you know, there are a lot of players in that Real Madrid team that are going to need to be replaced in the next 2 or 3 years. And so if the Real Madrid are now having to undergo another rebuilding phase in key areas like central midfield, like in defense, etc., then can they really be seen as potentially competing for the CL when you have Liverpool, who we've already said are established and have got stability? Obviously, we don't know whether Zidane's going to be here at the end of the season. Maybe Fiorentino Perez might sack him. Who knows? You never know what he will do. So even if they were to sign Salah, I don't necessarily think it removes other issues that Real Madrid have.
Okay, so let's just take a few chats from the comment things and see what guys are saying. So this is interesting. Real and Barca are bigger than Liverpool. Salah will only leave for one of those two clubs. So do you guys both agree that even in 2020, Real Madrid and Barcelona are bigger than Liverpool?
I disagree. Because look, they're on paper they are, history-wise they are, but as far as right now, I mean, there's no difference right now. Because Liverpool are, let's be honest, they're I know they lost to Atleti, but they're still until someone else wins, they're still the best team in Europe. And I mean, they've dominated their league with Barcelona and Madrid. I'm not sure they were even favorites for this title. So considering the best right now, I don't think Madrid and Liverpool Madrid and Barcelona are better than Liverpool right now. So I would say, I mean, I won't say it's a downgrade, but it doesn't make any difference right now because Liverpool are performing. Liverpool are doing well. So I mean, if you want to go there, it won't make a difference in his career. So it's not a big deal. I won't say it's a big deal right now.
All right, what about you, Red Devil?
So the specific question, sorry?
Would you say that in 2020, Real Madrid and Barcelona are bigger than Liverpool? Than Liverpool in 2020?
I mean, obviously, I'm a United fan, so I'm going to say yes. I'm going to even say United are bigger than Liverpool, even though we're nowhere near them in terms of titles. But in terms of, it obviously depends what you define as big in terms of, if we're defining in terms of commercial, fan base, worldwide, etc. Then, of course, Real Madrid and Barcelona are I would say, bigger than Liverpool. I would even put Manchester United into that category as well. If we look at the commercial, worldwide fan base, generic type of sort of thing. If we're strictly talking about like football per se, then Real Madrid only obviously recently just won 3 back-to-back CLs, and Barcelona obviously have the recent history. So I think that it's not that far in the distant past that you've got to say that they are still there. The only thing is, and I'm speaking like a United fan, is that it doesn't take that long for people to forget those things and for that to be in the distant past. So the longer that Barcelona and Real Madrid go without competing properly in Europe, the more real the idea that Barcelona and Real Madrid aren't as big becomes more prominent. And I mean, I can't remember, was it 2015 was the last time Barcelona won the CL?
Yeah,
2015. So that's essentially five years now. I don't think they were gonna. Let's be real. I don't think Barcelona were gonna win a Champions League if it continued this season anyway. Really, So, if Barcelona are now going up to 6, 7, or 8 years without winning a CL title, from a footballing sense, can you really say that now they're the biggest club in the world when they're now between 6 to 8, let's say, years without winning a CL? So you can't discredit Liverpool when they won it more recently. So yeah.
So brother, so it says Salah is inconsistent. He goes on a run of games without goals. Is he inconsistent?
Yes, not this year not as much, but last year, I mean, if it wasn't Origi, this man would have cost Liverpool a CL. He wasn't showing up the other half. You can partly blame him for the reason why Liverpool didn't win the league. He went cold some of the games, for a long stretch. Last year, during a time like this, he was not scoring for some reason. His performance just went down, and I mean, he has periods where he's inconsistent. So I agree with that statement. I think he's sometimes he's too inconsistent. And I mean, last season he was lucky because Origi showed up. He showed up. Could have been taken because he didn't remember even against Barcelona. Double H. He didn't. I mean, what was he doing? Come now, that should be a goal. I mean, Salah, come on.
So before I go to Red Devil, so this is from this and that 765. Juju, you are my idol. Never change, bro.
Oh, thank you. Thank you.
Oh, love that. So look. So let me come to. I want to come to. You're gonna Klopp now. So look, but I'll say it again. Look, I have issue with hardcore Liverpool fans. Liverpool fans are cool. They're fine. I've got many friends who are Liverpool fans. Hardcore Liverpool fans, I just think are a bit psychotic and sociopathic. But I've always been a fan of Klopp. I said one of my favorite teams to watch was Klopp's Dortmund side, and I still believe that if he was allowed to keep that team intact, it would have been a major force. So if Lewandowski, Götze, Kagawa, Gunnahan, and Hummels grew together and developed 1,000%, I believe that they were in the final in 20. I believe they would have probably gotten to the final again in 2014 and maybe even won it, beating either Real Madrid or Atletico Madrid if they'd kept all their dudes 100%. Because I think 2014 was when Lewandowski obviously moved to Bayern Munich. So, but my thing here is that Klopp seems very happy at Liverpool. Liverpool love Klopp, and it looks like a marriage made in heaven. Is there a scenario? Is there a potential scenario where Klopp says, "Oh, Bayern Munich are calling, Germany are calling"? So because for me, I feel the only two teams Klopp would leave for is either Germany or Bayern Munich. Now, the Bayern Munich is, I don't know Klopp's mind. I don't know whether Klopp will be like, wait a minute, you're the guys who flipping screwed me over by stealing my player. So maybe he can still have that whole haterade towards Bayern Munich. If Germany call, because first of all, I don't even know how Jurgen Klopp is still the manager of those groups. So if Germany call and say, Jurgen, bro, we're going for this World Cup, and we want you to ride for this 2022 World Cup right now, I don't know how Klopp rejects that. So for Red Devil Man, do you see Klopp staying at Liverpool long term, remaining there, or do you see him maybe going to a Bayern Munich, a Real Madrid, or a Germany? Or do you think Liverpool is going to be like his long term spot?
I think this is probably the easiest question we've actually done today, and I've answered like basically outright no to both those questions. No to Bayern Munich because Liverpool Klopp has actually done multiple interviews in the past where he's basically been like, I'm never going to manage Bayern Munich. There seems to be some, like, he actually tunes in and actually celebrates when Bayern Munich actually lose, in part because of Dortmund, but I also think there's something in his childhood as well. So it's like Pochettino said he wasn't going to go and manage, was it Real Madrid, was it Barcelona, one of the two teams. So from a black point of view, Klopp is never going to manage Bayern Munich. He seems to have a kind of aversion to them. When it comes to the German national team, the short answer story of that is that unless Germany, unless what's his name,
Jurgen
Löw actually decides to resign, I just can't see Germany or the German FA sacking Jurgen Löw. They seem to have a staunch loyalty to him.
Just real quick, like, help me understand this. Like, I don't care whether we are deviating. Just guys, help me understand this. So you finished bottom of your group with 0 wins.
Yeah.
How the hell are you still the manager of this team?
He won the World Cup.
And also, you've been in this team since 2006 because he was Klinsmann's second-hand man in 2006. So how is he still in this team? How?
He did win a World Cup for Germany, so there is a sort of the loyalty element there. I don't know, but I just can't see, even if they weren't to win the Euros or another FA Cup, unless Jurgen Löw actually resigns himself, I couldn't see the German FA getting rid of him. In which case, Klopp went. Oh, Juju man, say something.
Yeah, but, yes. The two things I see is he won the Confederation Cup, even though a lot of people don't take that cup seriously, and it looks like he's doing a good job integrating the youth into the national team. Like the transition, he's doing a good job.
He finished bottom of his World Cup group, right?
Yeah, but I don't think it matters because look, the one of the problem with WH is I told you, no serious manager is going to take an international job. Seriously, like it's like for if you're really good, you're not going to take an international job. Like you're going to manage like 6 games a year. Like if you're too good, plus I don't think you don't pay that much. But it depends on the nation. But I don't think
you're not. You're right.
He's going to take that job. So I mean, so far it's doing well. Even though he finished, I mean, it's because of his loyalty. Pick people like Thomas Muller, even though he had a terrible run, and I mean,
instead of peak Sané, which I still don't understand. Why did you not take Sané to the World Cup anyway? So that's
exactly. He's a bit conservative, but the two reason is he won the Confederations Cup. I mean, 3 reasons: Confederations Cup. It is the transition from the how he's integrating the new players, the young players into the team. Is doing a good job. And another thing is you're not going to get. I mean, with the Klopp thing too, like I doubt Klopp will take the German unless he just needs to a check. But aside from that,
but Judgment, don't. So you're saying that managers wouldn't want the chance of winning a trophy for their country?
I mean, it's a bonus. It's a bonus when you're retired. It's a bonus. But when
so Judgment, you're saying a World Cup is a bonus. Is that what you're saying?
Yes, like with it. Yes, because it's like even look at the trend. Like it's a bunch of I don't want to say. I mean, it's a bunch of managers with experience. I won't say old, but it's a bunch of managers. Like even look at Italy when they won. Who was it? It was Lippi. And then in 2010, who was it? It was Del Bosque.
Yeah.
And so all these managers that are past it. Like I don't expect if Pep Guardiola goes to Spain national team, that's career suicide right there. I mean, what are you going to do? Just
Luis Enrique is the manager of the Spanish.
Yeah, that's why I said maybe Luis Enrique is the fraud because who turns down a challenge to manage PSG?
He won a treble with Barcelona. How can he be a fraud?
Because first of all, that treble, let's see, he just had the sideline. He was there in the sideline. He did minimal. And then
no. That treble was long ball to the front three.
Yeah,
that was long ball to the front three.
Management, you would just like tactics was like give the ball to the front three and they'll take care of everything. That because at times teams dominated that Barcelona team. And the one thing is because I questioned his decision because it's like who turns down a challenge like to make PSG win the Champions League to go and manage the national team? I don't know. Maybe he doesn't believe in himself. I don't know because it's like.
Or Juju man, did you watch Miracle at Camp Nou? Did you watch The Nightmare in Paris?
Mm.
I don't think Zeus could help. PSG may just be cost. So
at least take the challenge. I mean, he's still young, so I mean, taking a national team job.
No. But Juju man, I think Luis Enrique knows deep down that he's not that great a manager, and he knows that he was fortunate that he had Neymar, the Cannibal, and that Messi.
Yeah,
that helped guide into that treble. So he knows that he's not good enough to go on.
That's it. I came to that conclusion too because it doesn't make sense why anyone would reject the challenge. I mean, because if you win with PSG, I mean, your worth is going like you're going to be 10 times like bigger. So I don't know why he would reject. Unless I agree with your conclusion. Unless maybe he knows his limitations.
Yeah, he knows. Okay, so look, man. So let's actually just transition right now just to current affairs with what's happening in football right now, man. But let me just hit this super chat from actually. Wait, so who do you support? Is it Man City?
Oh no, like I don't have a club because I'll change. There's no point because I'll change. There's too many good players and teams. So it's like it's just best. Plus, if I support a club, my predictions goes down because it's too emotional. It's too emotional. So I'd rather just stay neutral and have.
What was your last club, Juju man? Who did you support last?
It was Man City, and then before that it was PSG, and then Bayern Munich, and then Madrid, and then before that it was Chelsea. I used to like Chelsea.
Love it, man. Yeah, man, love it.
Okay. So Juju man, wait, take us through the timeline of the teams you've supported, like from the first team to the current team. So you started with who?
No, this is how I started with the sport. Like 2002, I watched the World Cup against Brazil. That was my first game, the final. Because legit, my aunt told me there's a World Cup going on. I was playing the sport, but I didn't watch the sport, so I watched that game. And then there was a period I don't remember. And then 2005, it was Man United against Chelsea. And I like Chelsea because everyone liked United. So I like being a rebel. and then after that, when John Terry missed it, so I stick with Chelsea and Drogba. I like Drogba too. And then when John Terry missed that penalty, I was like, nah, I'm done. I'm done. Like
good times, man. Good times. Good times.
And then I was that year. I took a break, so I was like, which team should I go next? And then people trying to convince me to join Liverpool, and I was like, no, they don't have any cash. They're not going anywhere. So I looked at Madrid signed Kaká and Ronaldo, and I was like, this is the new way to go. So I supported Madrid from 2000. I remember the El Clasico when Zlatan scored. I supported Madrid until then, until all the years. I remember all the years until 2000 and was it 2015? Yes, 2015 when
Barcelona won, didn't they?
yes, I changed. Until 2015, I was a Madrid fan. I changed because I saw Neymar and that it was a 3-0 at the Bernabeu. I was like, the future doesn't look good. Like it's finished. It was like Neymar just dropped the performance, so I was like, I'm done. Like it's over. And then switched to Bayern for 2 seasons because I thought like they're probably going to win the Champions League, and then it didn't go well. Pep left, so I was like going to PSG, and then you know what happened with the PSG? Like it's painful. And then I went to Man City, and then I was like, no. And then I'll just say I'm going to stay neutral because it's too painful. It's too painful.
but just see, this is before I know. But see,
yeah,
Juju man, can't you learn from someone like a Red Devil, where come rain, come sunshine, you stick with one team, and you stick with them through the dark days? Because Red Devil, aren't you slightly confused with Juju Pad's journey of 5 different clubs that he's been with? So what are your emotions when you hear Juju man's incredible story?
It's just, I don't know. I'm speechless. I don't really know what to say, really. So I'm just, it's just, it's just, so it just sounds like you went to teams that were performing well. It's just, so you just kind of, it's like being like, it's like, say, listen, you're in a marriage or something, and like your wife basically sort of does something bad, and you're like, see you later, and you just walk out the house. Another girl or something, so, yeah, what's up, so that's what it's like.
You get, because the problem is the problem I had with this team is like I get so emotionally invested that it's like a loss felt like I lost someone, like someone died. Like it's so painful. Like it took me a while to recover from these losses, especially so the Champions League, because it's like during the knockout stage, those are the worst time in football. Because
how did you? Can I ask, like, as a United fan, how did you feel in that 2008 final when John Terry slipped and United won?
I couldn't believe
how
it.
did you feel? Can you? How did that feel?
Nah, I could not believe it because I was like, first of all, I used to be that was the day I used to be a Ronaldo hater. Like I could not stand this guy. I was like, because he was too good and no one could tell him anything. So I was like, I can't stand this guy. And then I was so happy. I was like, this is Chelsea going to win finally. And then John Terry missed. I couldn't believe it. I was like, I cannot believe it. And then when Anelka missed the penalty, I was like, Chelsea actually lost. So I used to talk a lot of trash. So I was like, oh my goodness, I have to answer.
I think, Juju man, what you need to support a team that is persistently mediocre. Persistently mediocre, because then you're
no. Juju man likes trophies.
Yeah, I like trophies.
He likes to win all the time. So
he says that it's like he doesn't want the heartbreak. So if he supports a mediocre team like, say, Newcastle, then that you'll consistently get mediocre football. So you won't have to raise the expectation high or low. So you will feel good because they will deliver what you expect them to deliver, which is mediocrity. So is that the best way to go?
No, because it's like there has to be a standard. Like some of these players are not good enough, so it has to be really good. So I think the best is just to stay neutral. I would just stay neutral because it's like
okay. So look, man, let's write it down. Right now, look, man, we are all pretty much looking at when football can, whether it's going to come back or not. But there's some serious crazy stuff out there, and I think that people talking about player cuts, wages being taken down, and so forth. But the key thing is no one really knows that much about what is really going on with regards to the science or the biology behind this disease and the virus, with regards to what will happen if you bring people back. Because again, as much as we want football to come back, we all want football to come back and everything. There's a serious thing out there with people dying and people in the front line like Red Devil and so forth. And the notion of, and I think this is what I was even discussing with someone about, which is that, so if, let's say, because people have said, oh, let's just get people back to play behind closed doors and finish off the season. Now, what if you do that and somehow someone then gets infected and you now restart this whole thing all over again? Do you know how much that will just set things back so much by people's desperation of, let's just get back to it and so forth? So let me come to Red Devil with this right now. So in your view, before we really go into the details of the virus and so forth, so in your view, with regards just in terms of sports, do you see sports returning in any way, shape, or form in the next 2 months, 3 months, 4 months, 5 months for this virus thing, or what? Or how do you think it can happen with this kind of virus going out?
I mean, the short answer is it is very difficult to say right now because we just don't know. We don't know the trajectory, of the virus. I mean, when I spoke about this last time, I remember saying that we were about 2 or 3 weeks behind Italy, and people were talking about, it resuming by the beginning of April, the 30th of April, etc. Just today they announced that there's been about 939 UK deaths. So the very thought that we're going to be resuming at the end of April is obviously is not going to happen, like, at all. Let alone behind closed doors. And that's something that we're only discussing about 2 or 3 weeks ago. And you mentioned a good point in the idea that, like, when it comes to closed doors, I think the key thing here, and this is the challenge. This is the challenge of this, is that there is going to always be an element of risk. And the question, I guess, has to be asked is when do the benefits outweigh the risks? And I don't think anyone is really, because obviously we're right now, we're in, or what I would say is we're getting into the peak of obviously Corona, well, hopefully the peak, because I think the disconcerting thing from my point of view is that likes of Japan and a few other countries have now entered.
So I think 939, I believe.
Yeah, 939. So, the slightly disconcerting thing from my point of view is that the likes of Japan and 1 or 2 of those countries have now entered into a lockdown. And the impression was that those places should be going downwards. So the fact that they're now entering a lockdown, given that obviously they got the virus first, so it's somewhat disconcerting. But like I said, it only comes down to mitigating risk. And one of the things that people always forget to mention when we're talking about behind closed doors is that there are still a lot of people that are going to be involved playing behind closed doors. You've got your catering staff, you still have media journalists who obviously be engineers, technicians, physios, etc. So it's not just going to be like the 2 teams, the managers, and even managers, So, I mean, I was even thinking about the what's his name, Roy Hodgson. Roy Hodgson is like 71.
Yeah.
So he's already technically in high risk anyway. He's 71 years old, and a couple of managers that are of that age that, honestly, they're not necessarily the fittest specimens. Some of them might smoke, some of them are great. So, we've already seen, obviously, in the news, Boris Johnson and the like sort of getting it, So in terms of when football will be able to come back, it really comes down to the fact that, yes, in theory, there is a way that you could potentially play behind scores, isolate people in camps. But I think the Premier League essentially have to decide, is it worth taking a risk that possibly maybe a few people might get infected, possibly maybe that might die, 1 or 2 might die, possibly. But we're willing to take that risk for the sake of the benefit that we'll get from it. And if they're not willing to take that risk, then I don't think you'll see football for quite some time.
So let me just, I think this is from a Bayern fan, says that, so says that the Bundesliga chief said the Bundesliga will restart by early May, but without fans. Do you think that's advisable?
So I think a lot of this also comes to the difference between, and this is, I guess, where you can make more of the politics, governmental circumstances come into play, because the way that Germany have handled this coronavirus outbreak is one of the reasons why they have one of the, in terms of the big European nations, some developed nations, they have slightly lower rates of infection cases and also deaths compared to France, compared to Spain, compared to Italy, and compared now to the UK. So while I don't necessarily think it's advisable, I can kind of see why they're looking at it, because Germany, frankly, have handled the coronavirus situation a lot better than a lot of the other European nations. And I'll give you some insight into why that is. And that comes from the fact that when we obviously took our time when it came to, you know, closing things, putting people in shutdown, etc., self-isolation, one of the things the German healthcare system did was that when they started getting cases, they made sure that they tested people in the community. In almost every sort of province of Germany, they spent a lot of time in small camps and groups just testing people, and testing people outside the hospital. The test came back within about a 15 to an hour period. And when obviously those tests are positive, they isolated those people accordingly. So essentially, they tested people early and in the community, isolated them quickly, and kind of tried to contain the spread as quick as they could. And that's why they say they've got on top of the fact that they've got a very good healthcare system in Germany. That's why they seem to be at least a bit more on top of. They've still got deaths, but at least a bit more on top of the deaths compared to England, where we were like, you know, herd immunity is fine, it's cool, and people were still out, and we kind of didn't really act quicker compared to, you know, other parts of compared to of Germany. I think regarding the Bundesliga, I think that I think if the trend continues to drop in Germany, then there possibly is a case that they might go on. But I would imagine that they can't get involved. They won't be involved in European competitions. I imagine that they're also mitigating the amount of people coming into the country as well. And I imagine that this is still something that they're going to have to discuss with their health chiefs as well. But if it is going to start, I wouldn't imagine it starting at least until the end of May, beginning of June.
Yes. So is it a case? Look, I think I saw someone mention this in the live chat with this whole thing of a cure and a vaccine. So is it a case of waiting for a cure or vaccine, and we don't know when this will come, or is it a case of trying to get to a stage where a country is virus free, then literally shutting off borders with everyone else until this vaccine comes through? So what do you think needs to happen before a nation can go to normality? Waiting for the vaccine, or waiting until a stage of, okay, no infections, no new infections, deaths going down low, then shut off the borders from any other countries just in case?
So there are two. So I think there are two things to question I think need to address. I think the first thing is, when we're talking about a vaccine, the nature of a vaccine is that it's essentially preventative. So it doesn't like, if you're infected with coronavirus, like, a vaccine is irrelevant, if that makes any sense. It's kind of like if it's essentially it's a prevention from you actually getting the sort of severe the severe effects of the illness, because usually it's, depending on how it's made, it can be like, it's usually like a dead virus, inactivated, etc. So why that's important is that going back to this concept of herd immunity again that we were talking about. We're obviously taking a lot of time to develop a vaccine, but obviously the virus is obviously passing through the population. So as soon as you get infected by the virus, and obviously you survive, you then become immune to at least the current strain of the virus anyway. So a vaccine becomes redundant. So depending on how long it takes to run a vaccine, you will find a sort of situation where the virus is basically spread throughout the entire population, and obviously there aren't any more hosts, as it were, for the virus to infect. And then in combination with like potentially warmer weathers, as we're experiencing in the UK right now, it will just basically sort of die off. The issue, which comes to the second point, I guess, is that and the concern I think maybe some people have, especially when the lockdown things come out, is that again, if you just sort of suddenly release a lot of people, they're in quarantine, and you suddenly bring them back into the environment, and the coronavirus is still there, then potentially you could get like another big peak because people obviously have been released. The other thing as well is the fact that like if obviously things aren't settled, by the time we get to September, the weather will go back to being obviously cold again. So, which obviously means that which obviously will put people more at risk. So it's a difficult one. I'm not going to lie. Hey,
so let me ask you. So what do you think if, let's say, you were like at the head of, let's say, football and so forth, but obviously with your medical background, what would be the ideal and safest scenario for people to start, for football to now resume in a normal way? Because I still think behind closed doors is stupid. Football without fans is stupid. So what would be the ideal scenario and the safest scenario that you'd have to see in England for the Premier League to restart?
I think the question has to be asked is, what are acceptable deaths, or what are acceptable, what is acceptable morbidity? So not necessarily deaths, but maybe say complications, etc. Because if you were to say open the door to fans and bring people in, and then you find that one fan, for example, or one member of the coaching staff gets complications due to COVID, does that therefore mean that you then stop everything? And I think that's what I'm saying is like, I don't necessarily think it's like a medical question, as it's a, you could argue maybe a moral, financial question, in that benefits versus risks, let's say. And it sounds harsh, but given how there's so much money involved, and obviously the financial implications, and I think that's a whole big topic in of itself, because I genuinely believe that the longer this goes on, the more likely that there are going to be a lot of clubs, especially in lower divisions, that you're not going to see again.
Yeah, no.
And that in itself is going to have implications when football comes back, so because, as where football's not being played, clubs are hemorrhaging money. They're losing, hundreds of thousands, millions of pounds. So there might be an argument from the Premier League to say, listen, we can't mitigate the entire risk of COVID, but we can see that the trend is on a downward trend. So you know what? Let's either play behind closed doors or bring fans, and let's just hope that that the trend will continue, and because we've seen the trend continue nationally. But I think that's ultimately up for the clubs, for the Premier League officials to decide, because I don't think, at least for a while, that you're going to be able to completely get rid of the risk of COVID, especially because so many people are in isolation. And if all those people then come outside and the virus is still around, people will get infected.
So what about, and this is why I even want to ask now, because this is where I really look at clarity. So Sergio says, I feel like they should test all the players, refs, and coaches and staff members before playing behind closed doors. So, because I want to get Juju Man's thoughts on this very briefly, but before I come to Juju Man, so Red Devil, is there a scenario where you could test someone, it comes out negative, but that's going to be a false result? Or is it a case where we have the equipment where 100%, if they are tested negative, they are always negative, and they can somehow still be positive? So can you fully entrust the testing equipment that we have? So if, let's say, we test all the players and the staff and so forth, they're fully safe to now sort of go forth and play behind closed doors?
Well, I think, wasn't there a scenario? I mean, correct me if I'm wrong, but when Arsenal went to play Olympiacos, and obviously they got exposed to the I think the owner or manager who got it. I'm fairly sure that they tested all the Arsenal players, including Arteta, and at that point, Arteta was negative. Then, obviously, not that long afterwards, Arteta was then tested positive, which obviously showed that he didn't get the virus. He didn't get the virus from the Olympiacos manager. Must have got it from somewhere else. So, yes, of course, just because you test positive does not mean that as soon as you leave the stadium, you're not going to sort of pick it up. So, you would almost have to have like regular testing. So almost like is that really a good use of resources if every single match game, bearing in mind that obviously if this season is going to resume, all the matches are going to have to be played in congestion. They're not going to be spaced out. They're going to have to be played quite quickly, quite close, back to back. So you're going to have to be testing these people all the time, unless you have a scenario where every manager and every player and every individual is put into individual rooms, is quarantined and comes back, etc. Which again is unrealistic. It's difficult. And like I said, unless you're going to completely and totally restrict the freedoms of players, because clearly, if football is going to be able to be allowed to play behind closed doors, and these players are going to be allowed to be going outside, etc., and interact, engage with people, so of course they can still pick up the virus regardless.
Let me just, I'll come out here. Let me just bring in Juju Man. So Juju Man, in your view, then Juju Man, would you be happy to play with the risk of playing behind closed doors, or would you rather wait until this thing is fully done with and fans are allowed to come into stadiums?
I think it's better to play behind doors, because I think the virus. I mean,
even with the risk of the virus, you'd still stay behind closed doors.
Yes, like beginning, like with the one with Bayern Munich, beginning of May, I think that's fine to play behind closed doors. And the one thing I think we should be back by the end of May. Like everything should be back up and running by the end of the May. Maybe it's a bit optimistic, but I think we should be back by the end of May. The one major reason I'll say is it's hard to keep people locked inside when it's nice outside. So that will be tough to make people stay inside and just do nothing the entire time when it's the weather is not.
What if there's a scenario where you say let's just fine, go and play behind closed doors, and then one person then suddenly gets it and then it infects other people, and then this whole situation restarts yet again with this one person affecting another. I
think the what's it called? I think we're being maybe too cautious, because I look at the other countries. You look at China. I know that their numbers are probably. I mean, they're not maybe correct, 100% correct, but I mean, Wuhan is up and running, not 100%, but it's up and running. So.
But they've obviously started that. That was in December.
Sure.
November time.
So I think 70 days.
So bear in mind they started from November, end of November, beginning of December, and we're now in April.
Yeah.
So for them to get back into it was November, December, January, February, March, April. That's 6 months.
True. Here's the one thing though to take into consideration. They have more people there, so it's probably easier to spread. Another thing is it was during the winter, so I mean, I don't know. It feels like it's more difficult to tell people to stay inside when it's really nice outside. And even though and people that are going to say it's going to spread. I doubt it'll spread, because even if you look at the places like in New York, it's like it's.
You're cutting up. You're cutting up. Your internet is cutting up.
And he's gone.
Okay, I think it's gone. It's gone. Okay. So, for you, Red Devil, so would you risk doing this behind closed doors? In thinking about the TV money, people wanting this season to sort of end so that the next season can begin, would you say, you know what, let's do all the testing we can, be as safe as possible, and just roll the dice and just go behind closed doors? Would you risk that?
I mean, as a medic, obviously my first thing is, and I would obviously know that people are dying of other things as well, and it's very important to remember that, like, people aren't just dying because of COVID, they're dying for a lot of other things. But obviously, as a medic, the most important thing is to do no harm. And honestly, as well, I think that with what's happened with Boris Johnson as well, I think that will definitely, because the Premier League have always said, that what they've been doing is to a certain extent directed and shaped by government policy. So if you look at what's happening with Boris Johnson, a few other people and stuff like that, I highly doubt that Boris Johnson is going to think that, yep, you know what, guys, go ahead. It's fine. I've just been in ICU for goodness knows how many days. I'm still in intensive care. In about a few weeks' time, it's all good. Let's get best business as usual. He might do, but I would imagine, given that he's now experienced it as well as other people, that he would be very, very slow, and the government would be very, very slow to putting in policies that would say, or implementing things that would say, yeah, everything could just go back to normal by the end of May. I think that you'd have to see a persistent downturn in the curve. And because bear in mind that what people don't understand about these numbers is that, like, where we've obviously been in lockdown for, I think, two or so weeks now, but there is like a lag in terms of the effect of the lockdown. So these numbers that we're experiencing now are part of that lag. So we only really start to see the benefits of the lockdown some 2 or 3 weeks after the lockdown actually happened, if that makes any sense. So I think that if you see a downturn as we expect from the lockdown, and that goes down, then I think we can start to think about sorting out the rest of the season. But obviously 2 or 3 weeks from now, we're already middle of May, aren't we? And you now need to start to ask questions regarding, well, how actually are we even going to, because the big question is, how are we actually going to finish the season? If you're going to finish the season by just, getting tons of people together and playing tons of matches back to back, I'm not sure whether that's necessarily the greatest idea in terms of, trying to contain an infection. If you're going to get all the teams together in one location and then just get them all to play a couple of games back to back, I don't think that's wise. At the same time, if obviously you spread it out like we do, obviously teams, if we're going to play home and away, teams are going to be traveling, aren't they? They're going to be going from one place to another, etc. And we might still want to minimize travel with teams, So at the end of the day, I want to be optimistic, and and I hope and pray that we will start to see the benefits of this, towards the end of April, beginning of May, etc. And it still goes on a downward trend. I just think that it's just important that, like I referenced what I was saying 2 or 3 weeks back, there were people generally saying, yeah, beginning of April, mid-April, we'll be back, because that's what they said, and we're not, so we should be optimistic, but at the same time, we should also be realistic of the fact that this is something that could potentially go on for some time.
Okay, all right, good. I mean, I think that's definitely. Okay, go for it. Juju, man, go for it.
Sorry, I think I lost the connection. The one thing though is, I doubt, the one thing I was going to push back on the point is, I doubt we'll be out for a long time. Like, I'll be shocked if by the end of end of May, everyone is not back, because you have to balance. There's the economic consequence, and like, if a lot of people get tested, and we know because there's some industries that have to be back online, because it's like, you can't have people unemployed for a long period of time, because it'll be difficult to restart again the economy, and it's difficult. So it's
it's perspective, because obviously I'm speaking from as a doctor, as a medic, so obviously my mindset, and obviously nurse and all the people that are hard at work, the mindset is obviously preserving life, so and that's the most important thing. Mike Ashley's mindset of Newcastle is, how do I make a quick buck quickly, so I'm not saying that inherently is a wrong mindset, because as you're right, you said that people are going to, obviously, chronic unemployment for a long time is not necessarily is not good, it's not wise. But like I said, it is a common question of risk, because there are young people, there are people that have been dying from coronavirus, and like I said, the question is benefits at risk. So if you're happy to accept that if things do go back, that there may still be quite a few people that will have severe morbidity or mortality from coronavirus, but the benefits of a better economy, or people being at work or entertainment, and those benefits, in quotes, outweigh those risks, then by all means jog on. that might be a moral question. I don't know, so.
True. My main problem is I think all this shutdown is because the testing is like it takes a long time to test people and to determine if someone has. I think if it was easier to detect who has it and who doesn't have it, then it should be simple. But now that it takes forever to know who has it, and like
and that's the thing, because it's such a new virus that people don't really know much about. It's hard to get, first of all, the mass testing quickly and making sure it's effective, because as we just said, Arteta was negative at one point, then positive at another point, and the people who have been positive with the virus, been quarantined, come out, then have been affected again. So there's so many random variables to it that there isn't a one scientific ruling that, okay, if you do it this way, then this will. So, people are just going off the way, man. But very briefly, let's just do this before we get into questions. So, guys, send your questions through. We will answer your questions. Send in the live chat, send your questions. We will leave about 10 minutes to answer some questions. Pay cuts. So, Red Devil, in your view, because clubs are suffering and so forth, should players take a pay cut? Should they defer payments? Or should they be like, hey, you've got the money, you pay me my money? Where do you stand with regards to pay cuts?
Well, I think it's actually just broken. I think it must be in the last hour or so that the Premier League players have actually launched an initiative to actually help the National Health Service. I think it's called #PlayersTogether. So that's actually just gone live, I think, in the last hour or so, where literally almost every Premier League player has basically sort of said, as committed to contributing financially to this particular pot of money, basically. And that's going to basically be used to divert to the necessary NHS resource that needs be. So which is very good. I think that's very important. The two things I'm going to say about this, one of them is probably controversial. The first thing is that, well, three things actually. The first thing is that I did think it was a bit unfair that it was only footballers that seemed to be getting this mention. So like there are obviously other sports media celebrities who are earning a lot of money as well that didn't seem to sort of get none. They're even billionaires, owners of clubs, Mike Ashley, Daniel Levy, etc., that are following their staff and saying, you know what, it's fine, so we're not going to pay. We're not going to pay you. We're going to use government taxes to pay for the staff, whereas we hold on billions. I think that there should be Richard Branson, etc. There should be a closer inspection on some of those people in our society who certainly have more money than even these football players. The second thing as well is that while and this is coming from someone who works in NHS, while I obviously appreciate a lot of this, these gestures, and I think these things are important, we do have to sort of remember that the NHS is a publicly funded organization. It's not a charity. And the way that the government at times have sort of made it sound like the NHS is this kind of sort of charity organization that you donate to, almost kind of distracts from the fact that the government have basically been underfunding this National Health Service over the last decade or so. Like the fact that this is a public institution, so, and funded by obviously the taxpayer. So the fact that you're now turning that into a charity, I think speaks volumes about how chronically underfunded it's been under this current government. But that's a political thing. I'm not picking sides or anything like that, but I'm just making an observation that the NHS is a publicly funded institution, much like universities, much like schools and teaching, etc. It's not a charity per se, and we need to remember that. Obviously, I appreciate the support that these footballers are doing, so that's important. And then the last point, sorry, before I finish, is that the difficulty with players sort of taking a pay cut is that obviously they have they've got stipulation of things in their contract. Players themselves obviously have bills, things that need to pay as well. Obviously they're humans just like us, with expenditures as well. And that the key thing, and which one reason why I think Jordan Henderson, who led this player initiative, did this, is that the problem with players taking a pay cut is that where was that money actually going? So players had no problem contributing to the fight, as it were, I think a lot of players were concerned that the clubs were just saying take a pay cut, and then that money was then just going into the club's pocket, or just it wasn't going to pay staff, it wasn't going to do anything. It was just for the club to save money, which I think is reasonable, So I think unless the clubs were clear that the pay cut, that the money was going to either pay for the supporting staff of the club or towards the efforts outside, then yeah, by all means, this is the pay cut, because why should Mike Ashley get more money than he already has? I hate bringing up Mike Ashley, but he probably epitomizes the
no. Look, Red Devil, I saw Mike Ashley bring out about £1,000 cash from his pocket. That is a tricky man.
Yeah, exactly. He was the one actually that, before this whole thing, when we were actually shutting down, he was like, he still told the Sports Direct staff to actually come into work, because apparently Sports Direct is an essential service, which told me they didn't give a damn about the fact that his employees, etc. But anyway, that's for another time. My point is that it doesn't make sense for players to take a pay cut if that money isn't going to be redirected towards the supporting staff and the support effort. So from that point, I agree with them.
Right. So, Juju, man, pay cuts. What do you stand for pay cuts?
I disagree with the pay cut. Like, if I was a player, I mean, I would do it. I agree with what Red Devil said. If I was a player, I mean, I would say it in public to get the PR points, like to get my PR and my name out. But as far as pay cut is concerned, I am not taking any pay cut. What's it called? It's a contractual obligation. The club, I signed a contract, and the club owes me that cash for my services. The players didn't cause the corona, so it's not their problem. So if the clubs don't have enough cash, they can go and take loans to pay the players. That's not any player's concern. Another thing with the pay cuts too, it's like, I know it's a difficult time, but it's like, I'm sure that's why, this is the reason why all these organizations save. That's why they have the extra cash for periods like this.
And these guys, they make a lot of money from TV. They make a lot of money.
Yes.
Family clubs.
Yes, so they can't act to see. I mean, I agree. I think the players are an easy target. They're the easy target. So everyone's telling them to take a pay cut, but no, they should not take a pay cut, because it's like they're required. I mean, they signed a contract, and they're not responsible for what's going on. So,
right. So let's take some.
Double H, before questions, I'd just like to, because I know I'm going to get a stick from Liverpool fans on Salah and Benzema, so I'll just read out the numbers so we see who's wrong. So with Mo Salah, I mean, bear in mind, Mo Salah, Liverpool are having the greatest season in their modern history, and for Salah, he has played 26 games in the EPL. He has 16 goals and 6 assists. And Benzema, Madrid are doing decent. They're not doing that bad. But same games, he has 14 goals. And for a striker who's supposedly finished, has 14 goals and 6 assists this season. So, I mean, and if we want to compare attributes like key passes, I mean, his accuracy per game is 85% compared to Salah's 76%. And, I mean, we can go, all his accuracies are, all his stats on passes are over 80%, where someone like Salah has, some of his stats on passing, like long balls, is 47%.
No.
Benzema is clearly better.
Because I saw in the live chat, because Dahir, who was probably on the live chat, and he's obviously been a Hangout member, Dahir said, I saw this in the live chat, that he will not return onto the Hangouts because of people like Juju, man, and he says that he thinks you're trolling because of your thoughts on Salah, and he thinks that it is crazy how you're saying Salah isn't good enough for Madrid. And there's a massive, and this is my thinking, and of Benzema against Salah, my thing is this: it's very simple. Salah, I think, is a better goal scorer than Benzema. You cannot, in any galaxy, tell me that Salah is a better all-round football player than Benzema. Benzema, all day, every day, is the better player. Instead of just scoring goals. Oh, Salah all day, he's amazing at that. In terms of a complete footballer, of course, Benzema is better than.
Double H, again, with that goal scoring, I think is blown out of proportion because as far as I'm concerned, he only had one good season. The rest, I mean, he didn't stand out. The one good season, I don't want to call him a one season wonder, but he had one good season. The rest, he was all right. He was all right with other players in Europe. He didn't stand out. And the other thing is, even if we consider the team he plays for, like the team is known for scoring a lot of goals. And this is not because people say I have an agenda against Salah, but I mean the numbers say it. I'm not even. I can go through all these numbers. It clearly says Benzema is better. So I mean, people.
Okay, actually, let's take this question. Let's take some questions, man. So, is Real Madrid the biggest club of all time? You see, my thing here is this: is how are you grading the biggest club? This is what I've always said. In terms of branding, marketing, it's Man United. In terms of European pedigree and what you do on the pitch and your pull, it's Real Madrid. So it comes down to how are you defining what being big is? Are you defining big by what your club can do, marketing-wise, business-wise, on the pitch, but specifically off the pitch? If it's off the pitch, United as a brand are still the biggest, I believe the biggest brand globally.
Yeah.
But in terms of what you do on the pitch, your respect on the pitch, your prestige, your integrity, and your European pedigree, then it's Real Madrid. So, Red Devil, how would you answer this one?
I agree with that wholeheartedly. So like it does come to a definition. If you mean in terms of success, obviously Real Madrid have the most CL European titles compared to any other team. So if you're going to base it on European achievements, then yes, okay, it goes to Real Madrid in terms of competition. But if we're talking about global influence, whether brand, commercial, and just fan base, then obviously that's a different question. So I think Manchester United are definitely up there. I'd argue more so than Real Madrid. I just think because they just had that consistent level of success even though they weren't necessarily successful in Europe per se. I think a lot of it also comes to the fact that when the Premier League started, the Premier League was marketed as one of the best leagues in the world, and obviously got broadcast to so many places around the world. And obviously Manchester United were so dominant for so long in that league, and obviously with a few Champions League, etc. And so, whereas it took a bit of time, probably towards the end of the 2000s, for the league to really kind of be marketed for globally. And I think because of that delay, obviously they've caught up sort of now, but I think that meant that Manchester United obviously established themselves generationally compared to Madrid. Now that's a very good chance that will change in the next 10 to 20 years as we're getting a lot of young people coming through, obviously being the period of watching Barcelona and Real Madrid being dominant. So how long that will last, who knows?
So Juju, man, what are your biggest club of all time?
Of all time, I think this is a difficult question because, as far as European pedigree is Real Madrid, just based on what they've done in Europe. But I'd say it's Madrid, but with the league form, I don't know. But so I'll say Real Madrid based on Champions League. But as far as in England, it's between United and Liverpool. Those are the big clubs in England. But with Europe, I would say Madrid, just based on their European Championship, and with the Champions League, I've called it a moments tournament. But you have to beat the best in the world to play in that tournament. So it has a bigger weight if you win the Champions League. So
Juju man, quick question: do you think Chelsea's a big club? Do you think Chelsea's a big club?
Sorry, Double H. No, I think that I don't think they're a big club. Because it's like maybe in England, but as far as Europe is concerned, they're all right. They're not.
Chelsea will have proved you wrong this season. Chelsea were about to prove you wrong this season. No, keep laughing. They were about to prove you guys were wrong this season. Okay.
I thought you were in Siberia, HH. How's the weather?
Hey, look. They allow me to do the satellite videos once in a while if I'm good. So, okay. So Amchimili says, who's the best striker since R9? So look, For me, this is a difficult one because I don't really think there's really been a standout quality striker since Annan. Because if I look at the guys around the Annan era and before, you want to look at Batistuta, you want to look at Kluivert, you want to look at Van Basten, you want to look at Baggio, you want to look at George Weah. I think R9 was living at the time of some of the top strikers, best strikers. I think, ironically, R9's era were sourced, I think, some of the best strikers and defenders, whereas this era was seeing some of the best midfielders.
Yeah.
But if I had to see, my thing, it's a double-barreled one. I would say Shevchenko, if Shevchenko played for a better country. Because I feel that Shevchenko for Milan was insane. In what this guy was doing for Milan was insane. But I think because Shevchenko played for Ukraine, he couldn't really show his pedigree in international tournaments. But I would still say, even if you had Shevchenko there, I would still say it's Lewandowski. I think obviously people will say, okay, well, what has Lewandowski done internationally? Poland, blah, blah. What has he done in Champions League for Bayern Munich? But I still say, based on his goal scoring record for Bayern Munich, what he did for Dortmund in the Champions League as well, and just his playing style, his ability, and just his overall talent and abilities, for me, I believe he has been the best striker since R9. Red Devil?
Oh, it goes to Juju man first because I'm still thinking about this one. This is tough.
All right, Juju man.
I mean, I would say Commander is arguably, because I would consider him a striker now.
Okay, see, Juju man, see, now, for me, I think specifically the role of striker.
Number 9. Right.
Forwards don't count. So specifically the role of striker, the position of striker.
I would say Cannibal Suarez, because he's had both success since 2010. That's the earliest I can remember. 2010 with Uruguay, he had an impact and had a good career. And then the Copa America has had, I mean, not all, but I'd say the last, no, not the last. Yeah, he's had decent Copa America tournaments. The World Cup in 2014, he was good too. He showed up for his country. So with Lewandowski, he didn't show up in 2018. And with Suarez, even though he did
one goal last season, I believe.
Suarez.
His Champions League goal tally, I think, in the past 1 or 2 seasons has been pretty bad.
Yes, true. But look, sometimes it's not all about goals double H, because you look at the Barcelona without Suarez. I didn't think he had a huge impact with that Barcelona team, but based on earlier this year, we saw he's huge for Barcelona. He makes a huge difference if he's there. So it's he's had a good international career. I think I'm assuming because he played 2010, so 2011 he probably won. Uruguay won the Copa, so he has had international success and both and for his club too, and for Liverpool, and he's a top scorer tied with Alan Shearer, I believe, or for in EPL. He's tied top scorer, and don't forget he had a 60. This is how you know Messi is so good. He had 60 goals. 2015 he had 50 or 60 goals. He had a crazy amount. So I would say easily Suarez. Even though, I cannot stand the man, but I say he's the best striker since R9.
Okay. Red Devil.
So I definitely think Suarez is a good shout, and I wouldn't disagree with that completely. I mean, I think the only other person I can think of, just in terms of his consistency and the fact that sort of his age, and what he's been able to do, is probably Sergio Aguero. I think that Sergio Aguero, for what he contributed to Manchester City, the fact that he's still making impact at Manchester City, people.
But what about his Champions League record?
Yeah. So that's what. Yes, that's what. Well, it's international. I think that's almost like saying, is Messi not world class because he's not won a World Cup?
That 2014 was a no show. That's a huge, at least show up. I mean, that 2014, it's like Aguero wasn't there.
I don't know how much I can blame the Argentinian team and just how they've just been poorly managed since goodness knows how long. So like I don't disagree with you, but I just think that a lot of it just comes down to the fact that they just seem to just be poorly managed all the time for some reason, you know. So, but so I'm not saying his international could be better. So, but I just think just because of how sort of consistent he's been. And also the fact that, like, I think that he's gone quite underappreciated. I don't think he's ever won, like, despite having multiple golden boots, he's never won like player of the season in the Premier League. He's consistently been prolific for Manchester City. I remember was it last season where he scored like back-to-back hat tricks against Arsenal and Chelsea. Yeah. You know, like game after game, you know, like that. You know, so you know, only top strikers do that. You know, so yes, he needs a CL, and you know, you never know. Possibly this season he could have gotten CL, but obviously this coronavirus thing. I still wouldn't say that Sergio Aguero was better than R9. So I think it probably still is going to be R9, but he's probably, along with Cannibal Suarez, probably we're talking about a proper striker.
Sorry to interrupt, but I'm surprised you didn't mention Van Persie or Carlos Tevez.
It's for me. It's the consist. I'm looking at the consistency. So Van Persie and Tevez were definitely more. Have definitely shown sparks of more talent than Sergio Aguero has. But I just felt that since Sergio Aguero signed for Manchester City, and even when he was at Atletico Madrid, I think he consistently has been good. And I think with Van Persie and Tevez, especially because Van Persie at Arsenal, it was okay towards the end, and Tevez, you know, seemed to sort of go off the rails a bit when he left Manchester United, to be perfectly honest. So I just think that Sergio Aguero has more of the consistency compared to those two.
Okay, so I think this should be an easy one. Who's better left back, Alphonso Davies or Ferland Mendy, and who has the most potential? So for me, I think this is easily Alphonso Davies, and Davies definitely has more potential. Although Mendy, I thought Mendy was a brick to begin with, but I think Mendy is definitely very useful left back. But for me, I think right now, form-wise, I would say Alphonso Davies is the best left back in the world, form-wise. And I think that, bro, if he continues developing, he can become an amazingly top left back. Well, what do you guys think?
I agree, and I would say, like he chose, like if I'm a young player, like the best place to go is Bundesliga. I don't know what. Maybe I don't know if it's the German philosophy or what. They're developing like going from the under 20s or transitioning to professional. Like Bundesliga, I think is the best ground because, I mean, with Alphonso Davies, he's under even he saw with Alaba, like Thomas Muller, like even with a lot of players from some of the youngsters from Dortmund, developing. Even with Leipzig, I can mention players like that came through they're from PSG and Chelsea that went to Leipzig and developed. So I'll say with Alphonso Davies. The sky's the limit for him as long as because he's getting consistent playing time and he'll be good. And for Ferland Mendy, I say he's better than the Benjamin Mendy because since the injury, since signing for City, I've not been impressed with the Benjamin Mendy because he looks clumsy.
No. Mendy, the Real Madrid.
Yes, I think Ferland is better than the one for Man City, but with Madrid, yes, and with Madrid Ferland Mendy is more balanced, but it's like he's good, but it's like I would choose Alphonso Davies. I'll choose Alphonso Davies based on potential. He has the bigger potential, and at a young age, it's impressive to get minutes playing for Bayern.
Okay, Red Devil.
Yeah, I'm not going to add that much to what Juju said. To be honest, I think a lot of it does come to development, and the Bundesliga they just do have a knack. You know, Jadon Sancho, who United are obviously linked with, went from, I won't say mediocre, but like obscure, to potentially one of the best players, certainly one of the best wingers in the world. So the Bundesliga and especially teams like Bayern and certainly Dortmund do have a knack for developing young players. So it'd be interesting if Mendy actually was at a Bundesliga team to see how he would develop there. I'm not saying that the Madrid coaching is bad. And to be honest, one of the things that, and this might be an interesting future topic, is that, Madrid seem to actually have quite a good academy. They actually bring in a lot of good young players through, and they've consistently brought young players through. Whereas Barcelona, ever since the likes of Xavi, Iniesta, etc., that sort of almost class, they haven't really brought many young players through their academy in comparison to Real Madrid. And instead, they've spent 300, 400, 500, 600 million pounds on getting, the flop Antoine Griezmann. So I think I'd be more forgiving if they actually brought. Obviously, Ansu Fati obviously is from their academy. I think if they bring in those types of players, obviously, I think I'm sure fans will be more forgiving. So, but yeah, that's just obviously a side issue. Just might be interesting to discuss. Two academies, but from a development point of view, German football is better, and I think that's giving them the edge. Juju, man, so you're going to say?
Oh yes, I just wanted to mention names of players who went to Bundesliga, and I'm looking at Hakimi, who, in Madrid, people called him a brick, even though he wasn't he wasn't playing as well, but he went to Dortmund, settled in well, and then you look at Paco Alcacer. This was another guy who was rejected, and he went to Dortmund, played well, and then Nkunku was played for PSG. He's a bench player, and I saw him starting against Spurs when they won 1-0. Even who's the one defender for Chelsea? Ethan, I can't pronounce his last name.
Oh, Ampadu.
Yes, he was he like a bench player or a third string centre back for Chelsea, and now he starts for he played for Leipzig. So and Sancho too, and Dembele. You look at Gnabry, who was couldn't start. How did West Brom and then Arsenal? He was having a hard time, and then went to Bundesliga. Credit to Bayern Munich, but he developed. And I look at players like Phil Foden. Phil Foden needs to get out of Man City.
He does. You're right.
Look at Sancho.
Yeah, and you only get better if you get more time. It's not about the team you play for. You just get more time, because I think Phil Foden is probably not improving because he's you don't get better by staying on the bench. You have to get. And I see players like Man City. They need to stop being selfish and even loan the player and let him develop instead of just keeping him on the bench.
That's one of the things. Shouts out to Manchester United, is that one, and that I pride myself as a United fan. So is that we do, and fair play to Lampard this season, obviously with the transfer ban, but he's been good at doing now. Is that we do give young players opportunities, and almost every year you will see a youth player, even if it's just one, that will be making semi-regular appearances, in the team. So a case in point this season, it was Brandon Williams. Previous, it was McTominay. Previous before that, it was I think Rashford, etc. So City on the other hand, don't do that, and Barcelona, from what I can see, aren't actually doing that as much as they have done. And as you've already sort of said, in the Bundesliga, they just seem to do that across the board consistently, where they're giving young talent. If it weren't Bayern Munich wanting to get Hudson-Odoi from Chelsea, so and to be honest, I generally think that if he went to Bayern Munich, even if it was for a loan, he would make they would make Hudson-Odoi better.
Yes,
they would.
You can tell, you can look at a player like Kingsley Coman. Let's be honest, Kingsley Coman wasn't good, but the fact that he's having a career, this man was I didn't think his career was going to last. But
Kingsley Coman even now isn't still he's playing great, bro.
He's getting a lifeline in Bundesliga. He would never. I don't think he would get. I would doubt he gets a lifeline in another club. But they're giving him chances. So I look at. That's why I have problems when I see people say I have an agenda with Buffon, but I have a problem when I see Buffon taking the spotlight when you should. I think the Italian Syria should give the youth a lot more chances.
No, but Italians really older people.
Yeah.
And they really are into loyalty and there's respect, which is cool. But for me, I think for Buffon, bro, come on, bro. It's like you're done, you're finished, and you're taking the spot of a younger, better player, which you shouldn't really be doing. You shouldn't be doing because you're taking the spot of a player who is younger, better, and should be their time. So you're actually taking away years that you were given when you were in your 20s from another player. Because I asked Buffon, would you like it if when you were in your heyday at Parma or at Juventus, like a Pagluca or a Peruzzi were like, no, I'm still going to play because I still want to win a Champions League, and you're denied playing time when you're at the prime of your career.
Yes, and exactly, and people will say, "Oh, but there's no good players." I'm telling you, you don't know what. I mean, just give one player confidence. It can make a huge difference. Like even if it's a deflection, that can change someone's career forever. Like you just need the confidence. You give someone confidence, and it can work wonders. So.
Okay, sure. Just a round of last 10 minutes. Let me ask you guys a question now. So, actually, let me even change the thingy right now. Just bear with me. So this is about your boy Harry Kane. So Harry Kane has come out and he has said that he wants to leave. Look, no, he wants to leave, but he doesn't want to be a stats merchant. And he doesn't want to be a statistic. He does not want to be a statistic. And he said to Jamie Redknapp that I would rather win trophies than break Alan Shearer's goal scoring record. So my thing is, and I'll start this ball rolling. If I was advising Harry Kane, where should he go? So we have Real Madrid, you have Bayern Munich, Barcelona, you have PSG, you have Man United, you have Chelsea, you have Man City. And as I was going through all these teams, so let me even go through the list. Real Madrid have Benzema. And he will always be first choice. Harry Kane, do you want to be second choice? I don't think so. For Barcelona, Cannibal Suarez is on the decline. He's on the decline. Is Harry Kane going to wait until Cannibal Suarez fully goes through? And even if Harry Kane plays at Barcelona, can he work with a Messi? Can he work in that very intricate system? Bayern Munich, Lewandowski can still give you 2 or 3 good years. PSG, you have both Cavani and Icardi. You're looking at Chelsea, I still think they're going to have faith in a Tammy Abraham. You look at Man City, you've still got Aguero, and Jesus is coming into his prime right now. So as you're looking at all these teams, my dear Red Devil Studio, as much as I want a Gallo to be that dude, and I feel like he deserves to be given the starting spot, despite whatever he's done for Watford, despite how he breaks at the 2018 World Cup, it seems to me that the best place for Harry Kane to go is Man United. Because I feel that you put Harry Kane in that Man United team with Rashford there, Bruno Fernandes there. Even if Pogba stays or goes, let's say Pogba even stays there as well, automatically United now actually, this actually now becomes, because you now have a genuine goal scorer with another goal scoring outlet in a Rashford and a creative midfielder in a Bruno Fernandes. So I think United are the only club that I can think of where Harry Kane should actually really head to, because every other club I don't think is in need of a striker. Or even if they're in need of a striker, I don't think Harry Kane would be the right striker for them.
You
So
don't think Real Madrid? You don't think at Real Madrid?
Real Madrid.
As in another option outside of Manchester United, you don't think Harry Kane going to Real Madrid as an outright striker, especially with you don't think that's an option?
But Benzema though, basically it's if Zidane is coach, Benzema will always start, 100%. So for Harry Kane, are you happy to? Why would you go to Real Madrid and just be on the bench? Yes, Real Madrid, but you want to go as a starter, and as long as Zidane is coach, you're not starting ahead of Benzema. It's not happening.
And the other thing to add is I mean, I think it's foolish for any English player to play outside because I mean, a player like Harry Kane, you get so much hype playing in the EPL. If you go out, like they're not going to appreciate you as much. So, your best bet is to stay in England. The club it now depends on where you want to go, but going outside England, I mean, I think that's just foolish because it's like you get a lot of hype being an English striker in the EPL. I mean, Hurricanes gets a lot of hype. So
wait. So you're saying that Harry Kane would fail if he left England, or
it
could
would be cool.
deal with the pressure?
It would be cool because you remember, like Gareth Bale, like I mean, the man. I mean, he did well, but when everything wasn't doing well. I mean, he wasn't doing well. I mean, you had fans abusing him. So it's like if you're, I mean,
he scored a bicycle kick in the Champions League final, probably one of the greatest goals. He mustn't have done that badly. If Real Madrid fans think that Gareth Bale's been a flop at Madrid, then that's just. I mean, come on! Like, are you guys fake fans or plastic fans?
Just wait. Let me pull this in, and maybe I can then bring you two guys into it. So, shout out to Rodney for the super chats. How good is Martial really if they take Kane? So, my thing is this: is that Martial, I don't think his best position is in the center as a striker. So, my thing is, you're looking at, I think in an ideal situation is Rashford left, Kane striker, Martial on the right, Bruno Fernandes as the attacking midfielder. I mean, Red Devil, am I crazy in saying that? Or
I think okay, there's two things. I think the first thing is obviously how Solskjaer wants to play. And I think that Solskjaer, from what I can gather anyway, because it seems to change week on week, wants to play quick, fast, counter-attacking football. And one of the things that Kane doesn't have is that Kane isn't particularly fast. So even obviously we have Igalo is not necessarily in the first team per se. And I think that Solskjaer would still want to have someone that is at least somewhat quick, especially for the amount that we wanted to pay. That could obviously link up with Martial, Rashford, etc. The other thing as well is that it's clear from a United point of view that our right wing is actually the priority right now, not necessarily our forward play. And so I think that certainly looking at this summer, Jadon Sancho or a right wing will take more precedence over a forward. But the big issue, and this is a big issue behind any Harry Kane talking, which is why when he was saying those things, I was like, that's funny, Harry Kane, is that Harry Kane signed a 6-year contract in 2018. He still has 4 years left on his current contract. Daniel Levy is a shrewd businessman, and Daniel Levy will not sell Harry Kane, presumably for any less than, I presume, 150 million plus, because that's what he can do. He can do that. He's not obliged to sell Harry Kane.
150?
I'm sure Daniel Levy, like knowing Daniel Levy, and in this current like footballing market, he'd be like, yeah, why? Of course, if you want him, 150 million, maybe even more than that. So negotiating a reasonable price fee of Daniel Levy in of itself makes this deal impossible, because especially considering the owners that we have, I just don't see that happening. So although Harry Kane says that he wants to leave, the realistic option is that he's going to have to see out the rest of his contract. And if you look,
okay, but let's just say, and you're completely right, Levy is shrewd and he's not going to sell him for like 3 billion. But let's just say that in a crazy scenario, I'm creating a crazy scenario that he's allowed to leave.
Okay.
Which team do you think would benefit? And before you go, I totally forgot about Juventus. I totally forgot about Juventus.
Yeah.
Because I'm sorry, Higuain has been trashed for the last 4 or 5 years. Okay. Last time Higuain was relevant, it was in 2014. Okay, or 2013, or somewhere around there. So that's an option. So if he could leave, then Red Devil, which team do you think his playing style would suit, and which team do you think would need a Harry Kane where he would be a starter?
I definitely think that Juventus is a definite shout. I would have even potentially have said PSG as well. If Cavani leaving, then PSG.
Icardi is there.
Well, they have Icardi, Neymar, and Mbappe, but like in terms of depth and rotation, obviously Neymar might not necessarily be there anymore, so that potentially obviously is an option there. The other thing as well, it's just left my mind actually. Yeah, PSG, Juventus, and why have I forgotten?
Say Bayern. Oh, Atletico.
Yeah, that was it. Atletico Madrid. Yes, Atletico Madrid, because Morata's trash. Let's be frank. And Diego Costa isn't really going up to the heights. He's not bad, but he's not really performing. So I think Atletico Madrid are in desperate need. Actually, I think that's been their problem this season in La Liga. Yes, I know they beat Liverpool, but I think their big problem is that they haven't actually been able to score a lot of goals. And so you've got Harry Kane, a striker, so who's got very good hold up play. Who can
Question: full-time devil. Sorry to interrupt again. I mean, is this enough? Colchoneros will probably get upset about this, but is an upgrade? I think that's the downgrade. I mean, pedigree.
No, Juju man.
Pedigree.
No, Juju man. Easy, no, Juju, no, easy. Juju man. Let's be real now. And even Tottenham fans have to accept you will be going to a team who have won La Liga in 2014 and are two-time Champions League finalists and also Europa League champions. Tottenham have not won a major trophy in over a decade. Even more.
Your name is Harry Kane. You're supposedly the best English forward right now. I mean, you're supposed to go to Madrid, not Atleti. I mean, Harry Kane.
Okay, let me ask you this. Okay, let's say both Real Madrid and Atletico are on the table right now.
Yeah.
Would you rather go to a Real Madrid, which is obviously, of course, bigger, more prestige and so forth, but you're not guaranteed to start because Benzema will still start? Or would you say, okay, Atletico, they're not as big as thingy, but you are the guaranteed starter. You are the main star striker for them. And if also you believe in your talents, you're like, Atletico, the gap between Atletico and Barca and Real Madrid ain't that big. Atletico just knocked out Liverpool. The great Liverpool who we thought would win everything this season, Atletico knock them out. So if you're Harry Kane and you believe in your talents, wouldn't you be like, no, if all they need is me, if I can go, I can take these guys to literally the mountaintop and dethrone Barca and Real Madrid.
He said Double H. He said he needs to win more trophies. I mean, your odds don't improve playing against Madrid and Barcelona. You're better off staying in the EPL because Madrid and Barcelona. Good luck, even if you're Harry Kane with Atleti, you're not going to touch that. I doubt he's going to touch that La Liga trophy or Copa del Rey because Madrid and Barcelona they win a lot. So his best bet is Champions League, and then with Champions League, you have other teams in Europe who have invested billions, literally billions, to win the trophy. So, I mean, what's the difference of going there? Now it's worse because you don't get the English hype behind you, and so it's a loss. Like, I don't think that would be a smart move to make for.
Sorry, Coach Neras, Juju man just called Atletico trash, by the way. So.
So I don't think moving to La Liga is good for Harry Kane. If I agree with a full-time Devils, I'll say his best move. The three clubs that I look Harry Kane should go to if he's going outside of if he's moving out of England. I mean, if he's not playing in the EPL, he should play for Bayern Munich or PSG. You said Juventus Double H, but seriously, like, okay, he's another thing that will offend other people. Like, come on, Double H. Like, the back line, the club is on a budget. The Agnelli is most like he doesn't spend like he doesn't spend, and he's like there's no. I don't see a big difference between Agnelli and the Tottenham Hotspur. I forgot his name. Daniel Levy. It's it's the different side of the same coin. They don't spend unless it rarely spend. So, and Juventus, like the team is, I don't know. I think it's
Okay, then. So where should Harry Kane go then?
There's few options. You should go to. If he's going outside, if he decides to move out of England, to play outside England, you should go to either Bayern Munich, PSG, because those are the teams that are probably going to win in the next few years. Or, don't go. I wouldn't go to Spain. I'll just stay in England. I won't go to Spain. In Spain, they have a bias towards their own, their own players. Like people like Marco and Sergio are hyped, even though they are decent. So I wouldn't go to Spain if I was Harry Kane. Stay in England or go to PSG or Barcelona.
Okay. So Red have settled on a team that Harry Kane would thrive.
That would thrive. I'll go with Atletico Madrid. Actually, I genuinely think. Obviously, it might help that Kieran Trippier is there. He's another Englishman, so it would help. Maybe it would help him to settle. But I think in terms of, I do think. While I think that Harry Kane obviously wants to make trophies, I think his mindset is, I want to be competing for trophies, at least, so I don't necessarily think he wants to just be giving it like at the PSG, for example, where, like, let's be real, like winning the Premier League, what does that actually mean exactly? Like, it doesn't really mean anything. But just being able to compete, because aside from that, Spurs, really, the only two times they've really lost was obviously their run to the Champions League final, and then that season where basically they came second to Leicester. Outside of that, they've not really competed for anything. Even domestic cups like the FA Cup and League Cup, etc., they've been nowhere near like a final in those competitions. Even Banter Manchester United have got one FA Cup after and a Europa League after Sir Alex Ferguson sort of reign. So I just think that with Atletico Madrid, at the very least, he'll be a lot more closer to competing for big titles, either the Liga, certainly the Spanish Cup, and definitely the Champions League as well. So in that sense, you'll be getting a step up, if that makes sense.
Wait, but full-time Devils, do you think going to Atleti, you're literally guaranteed to lose? You're going to lose. No one, you are going to lose. So you just take the easier option, like you don't get.
What if Harry Kane should have faith in himself? I believe that if I go there, I can make these so-called losers winners.
Because the thing with Atleti this season, especially this season, has been the big issue of Atleti this season has been that they haven't been able to score enough goals. That's been their big thing. It's not that their defense has been trash. It's that haven't been able. So if you now then introduce a player who can score a lot of goals, then suddenly you're making Atletico Madrid. The problem with Harry Kane to a lot of other places that I don't necessarily think that he makes PSG massively better. I don't necessarily think that he might make Juventus a bit better, but not necessarily in the current squad. Whereas I think if he actually went to Atletico Madrid now, he would make Atletico Madrid better in the fact that he would score a lot more goals than Banta Morata and definitely Diego Costa.
The one thing, true, 100%, they're true. The one thing though I've learned from watching football is you play in teams that works with you. You don't go and try and become hero, because you're just going to suffer for no reason. Like look at Haaland. Going to Dortmund, Bundesliga makes him like way better. If he went to United, I'm not sure. Maybe he scores.
I don't know. It would have been the right move. Dortmund was the right move for him.
Exactly. And you look at you go to teams that make you better. No, because if you, people won't give you a lot of credit. It'll take really hard work to make a team like even if he chooses, I won't blame him if he chooses an easier option, like maybe City. Just go to a team that already is established and just needs the last kick, and then you get a lot of praise for not doing that much, but you get more impact for not doing. Because if you go to Atleti, you're just going to suffer for no reason. Like you're going to suffer. Like even like the best you're going to probably going to feature on Marca or the AS newspaper, and that's about all the credit you'll get. So as far as the rest is like, you'll be all right. But you go to maybe City, you win, it'll be Harry Kane all over the place. Harry Kane is the greatest.
I think if Harry Kane wants to truly prove himself, for me, I feel an Atletico Madrid would be wise. Juventus would be good, but you know what? I feel if Atletico still keeps Simeone and so forth, I think that would be wise for him. Okay, look, guys, we've got to cut it off. Thank you guys for coming on and everything. Hope you guys enjoyed this whole stream and everything. And I'll hopefully see you guys tomorrow night. So peace out. Thank you guys for joining, man. Thanks, guys. Peace
Take
out.
care. All the best. Take care, Juju. See ya.
All right.
Yes.
Peace. All right. Peace. Become a Football Hut member and gain access to cool emojis on the live streams and get access to new YouTube content by clicking the join button here. And to view that new content, head over to the YouTube channel homepage and click on the community tab over here.